Hi, I'm Juan Camilo Estrada and welcome. Botanical gardens are spaces that fulfill an important function and go beyond being mere destinations for recreational events. Their main purpose is to educate and conserve biodiversity. When we visit a botanical garden, we find ourselves in a meeting point where we interact with different species, which allows us to understand that we are not the only inhabitants of the planet. As we explore and discover biological diversity, we also learn about ourselves and establish bonds with identity. For example, at the mention of a palm tree, we are likely to be reminded of vacation memories or images of our grandmother's backyard. This exemplifies how biodiversity is intrinsically linked to our personal experiences. In addition, botanical gardens function as small laboratories that allow us to observe how climate change and other factors impact vegetation in urban environments. Growing concerns about climate change, emissions control, and research into new foods and vaccines have led us to increased interest in botanic gardens as places of knowledge, conservation, and research. It is important that botanical gardens around the world come together, as each has its unique specialty depending on the geographic area in which they are located. The exhibition Mutis, the continuing expedition, a collaboration between the Museum of Antigua, the Royal Botanical Garden of Madrid, and the Botanical Garden of Medellin, was recently inaugurated. This exhibition presents the largest number of drawings from the botanical expedition carried out by Jose Celestino Mutis. Indeed, botanic gardens around the world can collaborate and exchange knowledge. For example, we can offer other botanic gardens the opportunity to train in tropical plants since we are located in a tropical region. In turn, we can travel to other places to learn about species that are not common in our region. This exchange strengthens our knowledge and allows us to enrich our collections with new species. In terms of species conservation, it is essential to have a trained and professional team dedicated to the study of plants. At the Medellin Botanical Garden, we carry out research that contributes to the conservation of the natural environment. Our processes are divided into conservation, education, and research, which are not only developed in our 13.2 hectares facilities, but also in our reserve, El Centelleo, located near the municipality of Jardin. One of our research areas focuses on epiphytes, which are plants that grow on other plants. These plants are of great importance to us, and it was thanks to them that the Botanical Garden was born. We constantly research orchids and bromeliads, which are epiphytes present in our Andean forest. We collaborate with international foundations, such as National Geographic and Frankliniana, on important projects to rescue magnolias, palms, and other species. Our researchers are constantly searching for new species, studying their propagation, and carrying out actions for their conservation. Our objective is to know the plants that exist in the Colombian territory in Antigua, as well as their natural history and uses. We also seek to determine their conservation status in their original habitats and develop strategies to improve their conservation if necessary. Many of the plants we study in the botanical garden, especially those that require conservation, are taken to the nursery. There we conduct studies on their reproductive biology and try to develop propagation protocols to preserve these species in our living collections. In this way, we contribute to the conservation of biodiversity that may be endangered in their natural habitats. At the Medellin Botanical Garden, we carry out a combination of conservation and propagation of species, especially those that may be threatened in their natural environment. Our goal is to disperse these species in the city of Medellin. To achieve this, research work is fundamental, and we work in alliance with researchers from different national and international institutions. In the Botanical Garden, we can find a wide variety of plants that are important. We can find a wide variety of plants that are important for the care of ecosystems. Our collections are mainly divided into taxonomic categories, for example, by plant groups and also by ecosystems. For example, in the Andean forest, we can observe different plants interacting in a typical Colombian forest. We find botanical families such as magnolias, palms, semias, and cyclanthaceae. Each plant is grouped into families according to their characteristics. In addition to taxonomic collections, we have collections based on ecosystems. For example, we represent the Andean forest, which is characteristic of the Andes region where Medellin is located. We also have a representation of the tropical dry forest. Although, unfortunately, in Colombia, less than 10% of the areas with tropical dry forest have been preserved. Many species in these forests are in danger of extinction due to degradation caused by human activity. In addition to the forest, we also have an aquatic ecosystem represented by the Francisco Jose de Caldas Lagoon, which is a wetland. In this ecosystem, we can find plants associated with water sources. After the break, we will continue exploring the different types of plants that make up these ecosystems. At the Medellin Botanical Garden, we currently have 1,330 species of plants. These plants are divided into native species and introduced species. Although Colombia is considered one of the most diverse countries in terms of species, historically, many foreign species have been introduced into urban fruit dispersers as plants provide food, habitat, However, at the Botanical Garden, we have made an effort to highlight and promote the planting of native species, especially those that are endangered or endemic to our territory. Our goal is to show the public the importance of these species and raise awareness about biodiversity conservation. As part of our efforts, we have developed collections of various species, such as magnolias. Magnolias are emblematic forest trees and represent one of the oldest lineages of flowering plants on Earth. Having a living collection of magnolias at the Botanical Garden is not only beneficial for research, but also contributes to the conservation of this special group. In particular, we have the species Magnolia Silvio Hoy, which is endemic to the region of Antigua, specifically the Magdalena Medio. This species has been collected in the field and transferred to the propagation nursery, of the Botanical Garden of Medellin, where protocols for its maintenance have been established. In addition, specimens of this species have been taken to the urban ecosystems of the city of Medellin as an ex institu conservation strategy, that is, outside their native habitat. In summary, the Medellin Botanical Garden houses a wide variety of plant species, including trees, shrubs, herbaceous plants, and epiphytes. Gabriela highlights the importance of propagating native species, such as magnolias and other endangered species. However, do we really know the cause of this problem? Threats to plant diversity in nature are mainly related to land use change and climate change. Some species are highly sensitive to these changes and are specifically adapted to particular ecosystems, making it difficult for them to move from one place to another. Climate change significantly affects plant populations, while human activities such as indiscriminate logging, deforestation, mining, and construction in ecological unique areas pose additional threats. An endangered ecosystem that is a priority for research and conservation at the Medellin Botanical Garden is a tropical dry forest. Currently, only 5% of the tropical dry forest that originally existed in Colombia remains. This decrease is due to the threats mentioned above. In the Botanical Garden, there are 24 species of samias, a group of plants occurring in Colombia, and more than 350 individuals. Some of these species are in danger of extinction due to their particular way of reproduction and their dependence on specific pollinators, some of which are not yet fully known. Work is being done to understand the biology of these plants and to improve their propagation in order to conserve them both in the garden and elsewhere as repositories of biodiversity. Although species extinction is most evident in animals, plants also face significant threats. It is important to remember that the loss of plant species affects the wildlife that depend on them. Maintaining vegetation is critical to preserving wildlife. Pollen, pollinators, and other animals. An outstanding example is the bromeliads, which in addition to providing sustenance for pollinators and dispersers, also generate habitats for small animal species, such as some frogs that live in the water accumulated in their leaf rosettes. Without bromeliads, these representatives of the fauna would not exist. The disappearance of a plant species affects all ecological processes, ecosystems, and the environmental services they provide. Its importance is comparable to that of the financial system or the manufacturing industry. Botanical gardens perform activities necessary for the care of vegetation, such as maintenance, pruning, transplanting, and cleaning of plants, trees, shrubs, and palms. Gardeners are fundamental in this work, since they represent the knowledge of the Botanical Garden and are in charge of taking care of the entire collection, both inside and outside the city. Since 2008, we have had a contact with the municipality of Medellin to carry out the forestry and landscaping of the city. The gardeners are trained in the areas of research, education, and forestry, so they are carriers of garden knowledge that is transferred to the city. Their work contributes to having a green city, and they are responsible for caring for approximately 5,000 individuals, belonging to more than 1,300 species that make up the collection. They also deal with phytosanitary issues, for example, pest and disease management. Plants, being living things, are susceptible to insects, fungi, viruses, and bacteria. So expert gardeners work together with forestry and research personnel to control and counteract these problems. Ongoing maintenance of the collections, including watering, especially in the summer season, when small plants and young trees need a constant supply of water. It is also important to nourish the plants, as they require nutrients for growth. Each species have different nutritional requirements, so organic matter or chemical fertilizers are provided as needed. Now let's talk about our responsibilities and care as visitors to the Botanical Garden. This place is important not only for the inhabitants of Medellin, but also for those who visit us. It is a place where families can gather and share special moments. Admission to the Botanical Garden is free for all visitors, which means that we all have access to the education and information offered, as well as to a green space in a city where the square meters of green areas per inhabitant are insufficient. This is where families enjoy and where the new generations are cultivated, and when they learn about biodiversity, develop a different sensitivity towards the green. Currently, there are studies that show how we are losing that sensitivity because more and more people live in urban rather than rural contexts. Therefore, it is essential that adults, children, and youth visit the Botanical Garden to connect with nature and develop environmental awareness. Botanical gardens in our country play a fundamental role in allowing us to come into direct contact with biodiversity and, at the same time, raise awareness about the importance of caring for and preserving our natural environment. These spaces are not limited to being simple parks, but represent authentic living museums dedicated to research, conservation, and environmental education. In particular, the Botanical Garden you are talking about extends over 15.2 hectares that are open to the public. It is a place where visitors can enjoy, have fun, and immerse themselves in a unique natural environment. However, it is important to remember that this is not an ordinary park, but a living space that is home to a great variety of plants, animals, ducks, squirrels, and birds. Therefore, visitors are asked to respect both the plants and all the living beings that live there. It is essential to avoid entering with balls or sharp objects, since many times people believe that by scratching a tree or leaving love marks, they will last forever. However, these actions affect the quality of the plants and can generate wounds that allow the entry of pests and diseases, thus damaging their health. Therefore, a passive fun approach is promoted, where families can enjoy nature without harming it. Thank you very much for sharing your photographs and for participating in the section closer to the countryside. Through our email epicenter.tvagro@gmail.com, we receive these wonderful images that reflect the beauty of nature and life in the countryside. Maria Is Peñamonte sends us from her farm in Quipil, Cundinamarca, a photograph of a beautiful newborn flower. It is really lovely. Camilo Esguerra Sanchez from Bogota sends us a photograph and dedicates a few words of greetings and congratulations. We appreciate his support and are pleased to know that he has been following our programs for several years, learning about the world of agriculture, livestock, and rural life, and we send him a big hug from the capital. Eleanor Oliveras shows us a tree that appears to be a peach tree in her photograph. I know that the tree is quite well reproduced, which is a great achievement. Edilberto Vargas from John, Antigua, shares a picture of 2 mangoes hanging from his tree. We are happy to see how nature gives us its fruits. Finally, Ruben Dario Lopez from Minizales shows us some beautiful ray vines from his farm. These animals always bring diversity and vibrant colors to our landscapes. They are a beauty. We thank everyone again for participating in the Closer to the Field section, sharing their photographs and giving us the opportunity to appreciate the wonderful nature that surrounds us. Remember that you can always share photos or videos that bring you closer to the field through our email epicenter.tvagro@gmail.com or post them on social networks using the hashtag MásCercaDelCampoTV. We end this Epicenter program by thanking you for joining us and reminding you to continue sharing your content, photos, and comments in our email. I'm Juan Camilo Estrada, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.